And on this incredible African morning, have a look at the animal that we have got right in front of us. An 800-kilogram buffalo walking right past the vehicle on another stunning day in the center of the African bush. Don't forget, you are on a live safari. My name is Jamie, the man behind the camera is Viam, and this is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
And a very good morning to you all once again from the center of Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserve in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. Don't forget that not only are we live, but we're also interactive, which means that you can send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And just look at the view that we are currently presented with. We find ourselves in the middle of a gentleman's club. And as I said, a beautiful morning here in the middle of the African bush. Let's go and have a look at the sunrise from some people on foot.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to this little section of the Sunday morning stroll. We're on bushwalk. It's me, James Hendry, Brian Joubert on camera with his beautiful thumb that is difficult for him to show you because he's operating the bushwalk camera with two hands. You what? The thumb stayed behind. Oh, the thumb didn't come with us today. Sorry about that. It's having a lion. It is Sunday morning. Behind Brian, our gunslinger and security detail, Mr. Herbert, and he will be finding various interesting things for us to see with any luck. He is smiling in the golden sunrise that has just come up. Now, the first thing I saw in the sunrise today, of course, was Brent Leo Smith as he drove, I think it was Wendy, between that sort of area there and off to the right-hand side at roughly Mach 3, I think he was doing when he went past. Wendy was belching smoke, VM holding on for dear life. So they're the other people that are out. Now, we are as live as Jamie is, and that means we'd love to talk to you. Hashtag Safari Live, questions@wildearth.tv as we go along the way. The idea behind the bushwalk, if you are perhaps a new viewer, is to get intimately acquainted with the wilderness. So we will try and find small things, the odd, perhaps a hidden mantis on a flower, or perhaps a scorpion lurking under a piece of bark. That's the most likely at the moment, mainly because there are not many flowers around, and so the things that we do find, the small invertebrates, are normally underneath rocks or bark or stumps. So that's what we'll be looking for. Then we might be very lucky to see some big stuff. We did see some buffaloes. We came out. There were 3 of them wandering down into the bush like that. They were sort of in that direction there. We're not going to try and follow them, because to follow a buffalo bull on foot is a silly idea, mainly because he will immediately assume that you want to eat him. And if a buffalo bull assumes that you want to eat him, he becomes a bit testy, and well, that's just a little dangerous, so we're not going to go following them. Then, the other thing, I think Jamie's actually found those buffalo, so I'm just going to quickly tell you, our plan is to head around off to the western side of Djuma and then head down to the south. We might see if we can pick up some tracks of shadow, then back off to the east to see if we can pick up tracks of Karula. Apparently, Herbert tells me she did cross back into Djuma yesterday, so maybe we'll have leopard and cubs on foot. That would be very special. Brian, does my face look beautiful in the golden light?
Incredible. Lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Yeah. Right, let's go across to Jamie and have a look at her buffalo.
I have to tell you that everything looks beautiful in this morning light, including our fork-tailed drongo that's been sitting, collecting insects every now and again that are stirred up by the buffalo, and also imitating, once again, a pearl-spotted owlet. I feel as though there was a serious look there between the fork-tailed drongo and our buffalo. bright and early. Our fork-tailed drongos, the ubiquitous bird that we see absolutely everywhere, following behind big herds of animal, whether they be impala or these buffalo bulls. And I'm quite disappointed actually, because the oxpeckers that were sitting on the back of our buffalo bull, looking beautiful in the morning light, were actually a species of oxpecker that we don't often get to see, which was the yellow-billed. Oh, there he is. There you go, have a look at that. Well, try and have a look at that. He's popped his head right behind the branch. There we go. Have a look at the yellow-billed oxpecker as opposed to the red-billed. There he is, combing through the buffalo's fur, a species that is, for oxpeckers, endangered, or it was at least endangered. It's something that through human intervention has actually been reintroduced into the area, and the population has steadily grown since then. Slightly bigger than the red-billed oxpecker, with a much broader bill. And just like the fork-tailed drongo, in a different way, profiting from the buffalo's current presence, picking through its fur to remove any ticks or parasites that it might find is a very, very important food source. Shamsun, good morning and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. As always, Shamsun wants to know about the bald patches on the buffalo and whether or not they are a sign of bovine tuberculosis. Shamsun, no, although probably most of these buffalo will be carriers of a TB. And just have a look at those ticks that are embedded in the buffalo's skin to give you an idea of what the oxpecker are searching for. Those little round dots. If you look really closely, you'll see little round dots, you'll see some flies, and you'll see some ticks moving about on the buffalo skin. They're not a sign of bovine tuberculosis necessarily. Buffalo are prone to skin diseases, as are giraffe out here, and, of course, the Styx cubs, also demonstrating that they've got mange. In this case, it is most likely some kind of fungus that is affecting the buffalo's skin. Fungus or one of the many other skin diseases that they could get out here, one of which is a sort of a type or a strain of the herpes virus, which passes from animal to animal. It's much more common in giraffe, but you do see it in buffalo as well. And then the bald patches on their face, which our buffalo, of course, has got his back to us, so we can't see, but we always see bald patches on these buffalo bulls' faces. That is a sign of where they've rubbed the preorbital glands. So they basically have rubbed away the fur from pushing the preorbital glands against sticks and twigs and trees, scent marking essentially, and scratching at the same time. Let's try and keep up with our buffalo bulls, or at least let's reposition slightly. Get a different view of them. Hello, boys. Now, I've never seen, until I started working in the northern Sabi Sands, I have never seen herds of male buffalo like I have here. It's astounding. Oh boy. Look at your host of oxpeckers. So there you go. Each and every buffalo has a unique pattern of baldness on their skin. Like our buffalo bull that's facing us, he looks as though he's got some very cool face paint on. And it'll change shape. And those bald patches on their faces comes from rubbing. Whether it is scratching their faces or marking various areas, because although they're not territorial, they still scent mark. Particularly the buffalo bulls, because they spend a lot of time in an area. You can almost see it. You can imagine the stick rubbing against the skin there. Next to his eye, there's a gland just where the folds of the skin, between the eye and the nose, just where the folds of the skin end. Oh, and off he goes. And the oxpeckers moving from buffalo to buffalo. Those are the red-billed oxpeckers. A lot more common than the yellow-billed oxpeckers that we started off our morning with. We're going to move on. We're going to start heading towards Cheetah Plains, but in the meantime, James is on foot and he's got, the description was, a little impala.
There's an impala, everybody, and we just came into this area on the back end. Well, we were just walking this way, and Herbert has just said to me that he can hear Hlegedwane, which I'm assuming is the is the arrow-marked babbler. Yes, going and he says that it's responding. That impala was looking towards them, wondering if they're perhaps alarm calling at something. Idwane is? What's dwane? Oh, to laugh alone. Hlegedwane. Okay, that's wonderful. So Guhlega is to laugh, Hlegedwane to laugh alone. Arrow-marked babbler known in Shanghai as Hlegedwane. That is wonderful. Okay, so the other thing we have here is a piece of broken stick, and this is the Acacia exuvialis, or the flaky thorn, and it's called a flaky thorn because of the fact that it has got flaky bark. There we are, flaky, see, shining in the golden light, very beautiful. But the most important thing about this is why it is like in this state of now death, and that's because of the elephants. And if you look here, let me move slightly, then you can see it actually in the light. Sorry, there we are. I talk sometimes about the vascular tissue of plants. So the xylem, which is the vessels that bring the water and nutrients up from the ground into the leaves, and the phloem, which take the carbohydrates that are manufactured in the leaves by photosynthesis down to the roots. And that there is the vascular tissue, and you can see the little vessels themselves there. You see them there? Those individual stripes are vessels, little capillaries, tubes that carry water up and nutrients down. There's a pearl-spotted owl right here. It's here, it's in this tree. We've just walked underneath it. Can you hear it, everybody? Here it is, Brian. If you come over here, we'll see it. It's sitting right there, just above there. This is so amazing. Isn't that cool? The little pearl-spotted owl. Now I'm going to try and call him back. There he is. It's quite a nice view of him here, Brian. And apparently you had a drongo with Jamie imitating a pearl-spotted owl earlier. Ooh. That, you may have heard that. That's a lilac-breasted roller that came in, and I think it's shouting. It's shouting at the pearl-spotted owl. Because the pearl-spotted owl is obviously a predator, not so much of something the size. There's the second one going. Second one's just flown off out of the tree from underneath the one you're looking at. The lilac-breasted roller will be worried about their, you know, they alarm call at all the predators, and this little pearl-spotted owl is pretty good at eating other birds. Looking around, he's not happy. Now, Brian, oh, they've flown off. There were some brown-headed parrots sitting very nicely in the sun. There goes the pearl-spotted owl into the sunrise. Marvellous. Very nice. We shall continue along this way. Come with us. Oh, kudu, alarm calling. There. Oh. Oh, that's what they're saying. There's the kudu. You see the kudu there, Brian? It's standing on the top of a termite mound. It's looking straight this way. It won't be alarming at us. I can see other kudu. If you look, Brian, if you got the other ones. Oh, there's Herbie. I can see him. Let's go straight in, everyone. Herbert is over there. They're not alarm calling at him. Those three are now moving off to the left. Right, let's walk straight in here. See if we don't come up with something. Now, if this is the first time you've heard a kudu alarm calling, what they do is when they see a predator, like a leopard or a lion, they will make that sound. And it's a low sort of low frequency alarm bark, and it's low frequency because that's a great kind of sound to travel through thick bush like this, and they can hear each other, and the impala will respond to them. Just about all the other animals will respond to them. I think it was that cow standing on top of the termite mound that was alarm calling. So let's sneak through here and see what we can find. Herbie is off over there. Now, it's very tempting to just go sort of charging through here, but I think we'll just walk carefully. Could be leopard, could be lion. Heard a footfall there. Let's keep going. Just shake here. So the wind is not good for us, right? That means that whatever is, if there is something in front of us, it will smell us. That's not a bad thing. We don't really want to step on predators by mistake. And so if they smell us coming, they will either warn us or they'll move away. But it would be very nice to see a predator on foot. And that means, we're obviously going to be very careful about it. Remember, all see us as a threat. They don't see us as something nice to eat. And so you can relatively safely view predators if you're careful and sensitive about how you do it. And certainly one of the sightings that Brian and I had on foot. She was only 3 meters on top of a termite mound. So we backed off and we for maybe 25 minutes. She just went to sleep. It's just in front.
Good morning and welcome to a bitterly cold low-felt in South Africa. My name is Brent. I have Gendre on camera, and it is an exquisite winter's morning here in the low-felt of South Africa. We are currently on Djuma Private Game Reserve, and we are lucky enough to be part of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. 8 million acres of unfenced wilderness for all the wild beasties to beastie around in. At the moment, I'm going to go check where we last had the Styx Pride last night. Apparently there are tracks of the females heading east along Gowrie Main, but no tracks of the cubs, so maybe the cubs are still on Djuma. If we have no luck there, there were tracks of Karula in this general area, so we'll have a look for her as well. And remember, we're on a live African safari, and you are able to send us questions by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or you can pop an email to questions@wildearth.tv. I'm guessing it's about 8 degrees Celsius. It seems a bit colder as we go through the dips, which is, I think, mid-40s Fahrenheit. Oh, apparently I am incorrect. It's 11:51. I feel like it's 6. But I am not a great fan of the cold. The only reason I like the cold is because the cats are moving. So hopefully we find some cats on the prowl.
What do you call having both then?
Oh, very interesting. Our radio is deciding to do half in my ear and half on the open comms. It's like a game in my ear. In my ear, out my ear. In my ear, out my ear. Okay. Oh, hello, hello. Hyena tracks. And very interesting that just on the radio it sounds like the Nkuhuma's tracks are heading towards Djuma, so I'm going to keep listening, see if it's worth our while going to have a look in that area. Now, this afternoon, for those who are Safari Live aficionados, is very exciting. We have the wonderful, the mercurial Hayden Turner joining us. And for the next week, going from tomorrow morning, we're going to be doing some special school drives for Australia. Otherwise, I don't know if those children are going to understand us. But we're very excited to have HT with us for the next week. And it's going to be wonderful having him. And of course, there's James, Jamie, and myself who are running around with HT for the next week. But we are very, very excited and very happy to have HT back with us. Now, it's always good to switch off the for sound and sign of any animal. Listening in particular at the moment for lion calls. They were quite vocal last night. At the moment the bird dawn chorus is all I can hear. Oh, what's that on the road down there? Where are my binoculars? Where are my binoculars? There's that magnanimous bush on the road, unfortunately. So where we left the Styx Pride yesterday was not very far from where we are now. Unfortunately, this is our southern edge of traverse area. But as I hear, there's only tracks of the females further east of us, so that means the cubs could still be on Djuma. So we're going to definitely have a good squiz for those.
Oh, dearie me, it seems as though Brent has disappeared off your screens, and we do apologize. As you can imagine, bringing you a live safari from the center of the African bush sometimes comes with its complications. But never fear, you are on the back of Rusty, and we are still heading, in theory, towards Cheetah Plains. I've just taken a slightly circuitous route to get there. I just wanted to check Zoe's road for Shadow's tracks before we disappeared off anywhere else. We've got some hornbill dashing about. looking thoroughly prehistoric. Take my foot off the brake. I initially thought I was going to say that there was a juvenile and a male, but it's not actually. It's two males, which is very interesting to witness. Could well be the previous year's offspring. One of my favorite things about our yellow-billed hornbill is the way that they run when they're on the ground. So unlike most of the birds that we get out here, although they've got the 3 forward-facing toes and 1 backward-facing toe, the difference in a hornbill is the outer 2 toes are fused or partially fused together. And it just provides them with a little bit of extra stability. But it's interesting that they have evolved to have that toe structure. Because, I mean, in terms of what they do, their behavior isn't that different from the other normal passerines. So the birds that have the 3 forward-facing toes and the 1 backward-facing toe. It's interesting that they have evolved that level of foot structure. The other bird that we've already spoken about this morning that has a very similar foot structure is the oxpecker. The oxpecker, it makes complete sense because it provides them with a little bit of extra stability when they're sitting horizontally on something like a buffalo. And talking about birds' foot structures is always, it tells you a great deal about the animal that you're looking at. So we've been fortunate enough, I'm trying to, this hornbill, every time I move forward he runs behind the next bush. Here we go forward a little bit. Or backwards. Let's go backwards a little. Oh, oh. Could you pop out? Thank you very much. So we've been fortunate enough to, especially with this particular camera, to stop and to have a look at the various birds at very, very close observation. And we've been looking at the white-faced owls that are around Buffelshoek Dam. A wonderful sighting of them. Unlike the hornbill, the owls have 2 forward-facing toes and 2 backward-facing toes. So when they stand in the sand, their tracks kind of make an imprint like the letter K in the sand. But that 1 toe can move from front to back, which makes sense because if they catch something, obviously they want to be able to shift it around so one can perch and the owl can control the way that it's holding the food that they've caught, feeding themselves and perching. But it's something that is, whilst not unique to the owl, relatively unusual in the raptor family, having that completely repositionable, I suppose it's a middle toe. I guess you'd call it a middle toe. It's not their back toe. It can move from forward to backwards. And then you get something like a palm swift. So we've got the hornbills that can run on land. We've got the owls that generally are perched. You don't often see them it's very, very unusual that you see them on the ground unless they're drinking. And then you get a bird called the palm swift that is, hold on 1 second, it'll come to me. I think it's pampriodactyl. Essentially all 4 feet are forward facing. All 4 toes are forward facing. And that means that a palm swift can't stand on the ground, can't stand upright. Let's see what VM spotted. VM thinks he's seen some tracks. Cool. VM, you are a legend. Absolutely, those are important tracks for us to see. Beautiful. Fresh and shining in the morning light. Oh. Fresh and shining, in theory, depending upon the angle that you get them at. Very well spotted on VM's part. Look at that. Pug marks. A leopard walked here. a female leopard, judging by the size of it, and we'll hop out and just have a quick look. I managed to wrap myself up in my scarf and my earpiece and all kinds of things. Let me just double check that this is in fact a female, but it is a female. Walking relatively fast. So here's the front foot. These are the toes of this leopard. And the front track is a much rounder shape, much larger than the back track, which is slightly more extended. Now leopards at a slow normal walking speed, the back foot will fall where the front foot was. Means they're quieter, so they've got less chance of disturbing the soil when they step. In this case, the back track falls roughly an inch away from the front track, which means this leopard was walking relatively quickly. Now the question that I have for all of you, and myself of course, which leopard? It's a female. My guess would be Shadow, but it's a difficult one. We are right on the boundary, right between the territories of two different female leopards. I'm guessing Shadow because this is Hoffman's. This on my left is Hoffman's. On my right is the western, or close to the western edge of Djuma, which immediately tells us that it's probably Shadow. Tiny little tracks, but again, Shadow is Karula's daughter, so their tracks are roughly equal size. They've got that same genetic structure. Very tiny leopards. Sorry, I'm untangling myself from my scarf. And my guess is, but we're going to just keep tracking, my guess is that they go south into Hoffman's, but let's just double check that. So Shadow's been here the whole time, which we kind of knew, but she kept us guessing for a long time. Oh, these are so beautifully fresh. We must have missed her at most maybe an hour. There's something about a fresh leopard track, you can just tell how crisp and clear it is. The outlines are perfectly defined. The only interesting thing about this is Shadow doesn't often walk this boundary. So we're on Gowrie Main, the southern boundary of Djuma. And, oh, she's scent marking. I can tell you she's scent marking, or she went to sniff another leopard scent mark, because have a look at the way that the tracks, the direction that the tracks go in. So she changed her angle, went towards the monkey orange on the side of the road, probably, although I don't smell anything and I don't see any dampness, urinated and then came back onto the road. Now, the interesting thing with Shadow, of course, is that she is slowly but surely being displaced from her current territory by a larger female leopard with an almost independent female cub. Driven over, but they're still here. I can see them far ahead. Okay, we can speed up a little bit. Perhaps we'll be lucky and we'll encounter her still on the road, or on a termite mound close to the road. You can still see them. The trick with tracking is to not get caught trying to track track by track. The trick is to try and look ahead of yourself. Except when they've been driven over. Absolutely, Dina. This is exactly what we do when we've got guests. Well, I mean, I can only speak for myself. Oh no. Oh, it's so clear. Oh well, we tracked a leopard for a while. Our leopard goes straight off into Hoffman's. I'll get back to Dina's question in a moment. Well, that was an exciting start to the morning. She might have come back onto the road. We'll find out. We'll carry on and just check that she didn't. The Dina wants to know if we will get out and show the tracks like the way we do. Yes, absolutely. It's all about the whole experience. So being able to show somebody this is what we're looking for, this is why we're doing what we're doing, it's part of the journey. And I've found that with guests, experiencing the leopard tracking or lion tracking, the whole experience and finding that animal is for them one of the most memorable parts about their safari. Now, speaking of tracking, I can do it from the vehicle, sort of, but it's far better to do on foot. Let's head back to James and find out how things are going there.
We have no tracks, everybody. Herbert is of the opinion that those kudu were shouting at us, and that's because we were standing basically just silhouetted in the light. And I think because Herbert was coming from one angle and we were coming from the other, maybe they were shouting at us. They stopped shouting, and then we actually found them, and they were very still and quiet in the middle of the bush. Anyway, no predators there that we could find. Sorry about that. But I have just heard the call of the golden-tailed woodpecker, and the golden-tailed woodpecker goes, "Hey!" And Herbert said two things about that. The first was that the Shangaan word for a golden-tailed woodpecker is nyeha, and many of the names, as I've said to you before, are onomatopoeic, the Shangaan names for the birds, and so nyeha is the golden-tailed woodpecker's name, and apparently what it's saying to you is ah. It's warning you. It's saying today you're not going to be lucky. So I'm sorry about that. Apparently we're not going to be lucky today, according to the golden-tailed woodpecker that lives on Zoe's road. If you hear a Bennett's woodpecker going, it means watch out, the bees are going to sting you. Not sure why that is. I thankfully haven't been stung by bees on hearing the golden-tailed at least the Bennett's woodpecker, but he says watch out if you do hear a Bennett's woodpecker calling. Right. Now come and have a look over here. The very obvious mark from a tusk, an elephant's tusk. Now, just appreciate this. There are two things I want to tell you about this. Just appreciate, first of all, the fact that this is a massively hard tree. It's not soft. I'm going to make a knocking noise, and you can hear it. So it's really hard. Now, imagine sticking your teeth into this and pulling off the wood. The force involved is truly impressive. Now, the second thing I want to tell you is that there's been an experiment going on between Mike Grover and Yuri. Yuri is the landowner. Mike does the kind of conservation advising around here. And they I thought it was a very strange thing to have done. I didn't know if it would work or not. Brent Smith really didn't think it was going to work. I didn't either, but I hedged my bets. But what they did was they put little tins full of creosote on the top of these trees on quarantine clearings because they wanted to maintain the kind of parkland feel of quarantine clearings. They didn't want all the big trees pushed over by the elephants. And I didn't really think it was going to work, but it has worked. Every single tree that they've put creosote in has been left untouched by the elephants. Not only have they not pushed them over, they haven't debarked them. So they've come and they've done something like that. This one doesn't have a tin on it. We're quite a long way from quarantine clearing. But they've done that sort of thing, obviously smelt or tasted the tannin in the creosote, and they've left it alone, which I think is quite interesting. Now, many of the debates around elephant numbers occur because of the trees that get destroyed, and we associate the word destroy with the negative, not surprisingly. And so when we think of elephants pushing over trees like this, we think, well, that's a negative thing. It isn't. It's just what happens, and it happens in an area like this. But, of course, if you're a landowner in this area, you're operating a tourism business. The tourism business is the only reason that you're able to maintain an area as a conservation land. Well, if you have a big drought and then suddenly people arrive here, and it looks like it's been sort of, the landscape has been mangled, well, then it's just not great for tourism. So a very nice, completely unintrusive and particularly innovative solution to maintaining the big trees with a little tin of creosote. I think that's quite remarkable, and they're quite brilliant. I eat humble pie. We're going to walk through here. Oh, Tony, you're in Holland and you're about to come here to do a 3-day walk in the Kruger National Park. Tony, brilliant time of the year to be doing it. I'm very pleased you're going to be doing that. You say, was there anything that you should bring or shouldn't bring when you're going on a walk? Tony, this is my kit for a walk. A pair of binoculars, an ash bag you don't need, your guide will have one of those. You don't need a rifle, your guide will have one of those. That's it. A hat also, of course, especially if you're from Holland. Although you are coming out of your summer, you'll probably be a little pale-skinned for this particular part of the world. The main thing to take on a walk, Tony, is a pair of binoculars. I promise you it will revolutionize the experience that you have. And the same thing happens with when we get asked about safari. What should we bring, what shouldn't we bring? And I think people are imagining lists of khaki clothing and perhaps a leather man and various other survival implements. It's a pair of binoculars. That's what you want, because you're going to be able to see things that you will just not be able to see with the naked eye, and you'll enjoy the detail so much more. Especially when the landscape is like this, the bush is clear, you'll be able to view things from quite a distance. And so a good pair of binoculars, Tony, please bring that with you. Things not to bring, well, probably bright yellow luminous clothing, ideally not white clothing, but otherwise a whole range of clothes you can wear. This green color is very good. This particular khaki color of my shorts is not particularly good. It's actually quite obvious when you see it walking through the bush. Grey is good. Brown is good. Oh, are we right? Brian stepped in a substantial hole there. What else? Yeah, maybe some insect repellent be good for your legs. That's quite a good idea. Insect repellent, if you're not used to the ticks here, quite nice to just have a bit of insect repellent on your legs. And if you're going to walk in shorts, which I like to do, then those gaiters that Steph has are actually really good. They're actually quite a nice addition to a walking kit. They're just little bits of cloth that cover the ankles. In my case, one will do for both ankles, but in yours I'm sure you'll need two. And what that does is stop the seeds and things and thorns, especially this time of the year, getting into your shoes. That's what I would tell you to bring, Tony. We're going to just wheeze our way through these strychnos trees here. ZBZ, you say you would bring a camera on bushwalk. ZBZ? Yeah, look, it's not a bad idea to take a camera, but remember that it's very seldom that you have a great photographic opportunity for big game on a walk. It's unusual for you to have that kind of opportunity. And that's because if you are looking at big game, you don't want to get too close to it. You ideally want to view it without it knowing that you're there. If you want to take landscapes or close-up stuff, some macro stuff of the smaller stuff, then yes, a camera is always a good idea. But binoculars, I promise you now, is what you want to bring. And curious one, you'd bring a magnifying glass. I think that's a brilliant idea. You can actually use binoculars as a microscope. So I'll just show you how to do that. You look through them the wrong way. You bring something like this leaf really close up. I'm not going to try and get Brian to put the lens through this. And you look at it like this, and you can see the most unbelievable detail. So I can see all the tiny veins in this leaf. It really is quite amazing. So that's a really good way of having a magnifying glass. The other thing, for me, Tony, and anybody else who's considering going for a walk, is to not be encumbered. So a great big backpack full of books and things like that becomes a real irritation when you want to stop and have a look at something or pick something off a tree and then quickly have a look. Binoculars, maybe a small camera, that would be it for me. Maybe some water, but your guide will probably look after that for you. Oh. Liz in Wisconsin, you want to know what creosote is. Just sorry, 1 second. We're just going to be quiet. Herbert can hear something. You can hear it. A giant eagle owl going. Ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh. Two of them. One male, one female. We'll see if we can find them. Okay, while we do that, creosote is, I think it's derived from oil, is it, Brian? It's what you paint wood with to treat it if you don't want termites to eat it. It's that smell, you'll know it. Jay's fluid. You remember Jay's fluid that you put down the down the loo sometimes? Certainly when you're at school, that's what they used to use. It doesn't smell very nice, but it's a very good disinfectant. Jay's fluid, I think, contains quite a lot of creosote. Does that make sense? I guarantee you none of the marulas were born in this area thinking that they were going to be covered in Jay's fluid one day. You may have noticed that we've disrobed slightly. Brian has taken off his 6 jackets, Herbert's taken off his 2, I've taken off my 1, and we've hung them on a tree. We'll come back and fetch them later because it's going to be quite a warm day, I think. And it's always interesting to me. The heat of the day is predicted by how early the chin spot batis begins to call. And there's one calling over there already. I mean, we've probably only been on foot 45 minutes or so going. Brian, it's not 3 blind mice, is it? No. No. It's 3 blind mice for the tone deaf, or perennially in a minor key. Anyway, some old elephant dung here. Herbie's just walking towards those owls. I think, you know where they are? I think they're in that big Balanites tree. Just look over there. You can see that green tree there. Remember the tree that Brent Leo Smith fell out of, that I've climbed and nearly fallen out of? But that's it there. And I think that's where the owl is. So we'll head across there and see if we can't find the owls there. But let's go and get an update from Jamie and her tracking while we make our way there.
What a lovely idea to go and search for some of our different owl species. In the meantime, we are now, well, to go and look for changed our minds and are now heading west towards Arethusa. So all of my plans have gone completely out of the window, which is pretty standard. If you say you're going to go to Cheetah Plains, you're probably not going to go to Cheetah Plains because you're going to get distracted by something else. Half the fun of the entire deal. Standing by. Just chatting on the game drive comms. Okay, copy, awesome. Have you called me into either sighting? Sorry. Okay, copy, thanks. I'll see you shortly. As I said, the morning definitely not going according to plan, but in the most exciting of ways. Vroom. Okay. Maybe we won't go so fast. It's very chilly when you're driving that fast. Oh, and the other vehicle has just spotted the tracks that we saw earlier. Our plans have definitely changed. We are going to Arethusa because it's all happening on... Copy that, thank you. There we go. That's what the other vehicle stopped to look at. It wasn't leopard tracks. It was this lovely zebra in the morning light. And I'm sorry, zebra, you are lovely. Very, very photogenic. With this very fat. as they all, they all look round, barrel-bellied, thanks to the digestive gases. The only way to tell whether or not a zebra is in good condition or bad condition is to have a look at the mane that runs down the center of their necks, which of course our gentleman has made quite difficult because he's turned away from us, but there you go. That mane, if it starts to get floppy, is the only way that you can judge if a zebra is unhealthy, because their digestive process produces so much gas that they look round no matter what condition they are in. I'm sorry, Mr. Zebra, and it is a Mr. Zebra, it is not a Mrs. Zebra, it's a Mr. Zebra. And we know that thanks to the thin stripe between the cheeks of the bottom, and also the behavior, the fact that he's on his own. You very, very seldom see a female zebra just grazing around all on their own. That herding instinct is very strong. Oh, somebody's kindly pulled off for us. Sorry, zebra, we have to go. Got places to be and they're far away. Good morning. How's it? How's it, Sean? Good, thanks. Hi, everybody. Nice and warm this morning.
Brisk indeed, yeah.
Absolutely.
You're going to go off to Miss Shadow.
I am.
Oh, look at that drainage line in front of our Lux car. Is that Squirrel Mighty?
Yeah.
Zalaesha is also there.
How lovely.
Playing.
It's all happening.
So exciting.
All happening. Okay. Cheers, guys.
Drive-Aug.
Yo, you too. Have fun. I think Sean gave away the surprise. So the lovely Sean from Arethusa and his tracker Reese, who is amazing. Well, my first memory of Reese was going on the back of the vehicle with Scott when I first started working here to take some lessons from him. And Reese had tracked down Sindile and was sitting probably about... Sindile and Reese got on very well.
Morning.
Morning, Peter.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you? Hello, everybody.
I'm playing with you.
No, lovely morning.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay, we're going to go on our way now to...
Yeah, I'm going to go back that way again.
Okay, enjoy. Yeah, hopefully the sticks come back aside.
Yeah, apparently now the sticks are coming back towards Gary with the Mongoose.
Oh, awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
enjoy. Cheers, everybody. It's all happening on this winter's morning. My apologies for all the... This is a main road. Oh, no. Not more people. Oh, we had a question from one of our viewers that I will get back to answering in a moment. I've got quite a long way to go and several vehicles to pass, so while we do that, I'm going to send you to jump onto the back of Wendy and go and see what Brent is up to.
Wasn't Jamie popular this morning? Lots of people to chat to. And I've decided I'm going to meet an old nemesis of mine this morning. Now, just before the Father's Day weekend special, we're doing some rehearsals. The rehearsals were only live to Nat Geo, and believe it or not, I fell out of a tree. And I actually got requested to do it again. And I was like, we can't really plan falling out of a tree. So I think I need to go have a discussion with my previously favorite torchwood tree and see if I can put those demons to bed. So we're going to go climb a tree. Now, very exciting, Jamie is heading to potentially an incredible sighting on Arethusa. So I know she's rushing off in that area. I'm not going to lie, I'm quite jealous. Wendy's gremlins deny me from going there, so I'm just going to have to go look for Karula instead and battle some of my demons. And there is my demon coming up on the right. There it is. It is an absolutely beautiful tree and was one of my most favorite trees on Juma till I fell out of it. and then it became one of my least favorite trees. Now, believe it or not, it actually fell from quite high. So I'm going to have a look now. And it's all Gendre's fault, by the way. So if we have a look, I fell from there. And from there to the ground, ooh, where's my finger? Oh, look at that. Apparently someone was talking about me falling out of a tree. I can see that someone. Oh, there's Brian and James. He's trying to hide from us. We can see you. Anyway, let's move a little bit further forward. I think he's taking a selfie. James really likes selfies. There we go. And what is he doing? Oh dear, I think we've caught him in an opportune moment. It does look like he is in an opportune moment at the moment. He is, of course, not squatting for natural reasons. I think he spotted something. Oh, what is he doing? What is he doing, Gendre? Him and Brian are in great communication at the moment. There we go. Brian's actually noticed that he's on camera. He's waving. But as I said, we're going to go conquer a demon right now. Okay, so now I am absolutely fascinated about what James has found. I can't see, I'm a bit too far away, but you guys can see, so let's go have a closer look.
What we've got here, everybody, is a jumping spider's nest, and there's a beetle trying to get out of it. I think it's quite likely, however, that this beetle was just a sort of accidental bypasser here. I don't see the spider, and it's not really spider time. You see the little copper-colored beetle? Very cute. Now, we did find the owls. We found both of them. But as soon as we got close enough to sort of take a picture of them, they flew away. And it was amazing to watch while you look at this beetle. Those owls fly completely silently, you know. They have much less, how do we say it? The barbicels and barbules of the barbs on the feathers. So if you think of a feather, you know how they stick together like Velcro, the different barbs. They stick together like Velcro, the different barbs. Well, they don't do the same thing on an owl. The air is allowed to sort of flow through the wing, which means that they don't fly very fast. But it does mean they fly completely silently. And if you've ever heard something like an eagle or a vulture take off, it makes a very loud wing-beating sound. It doesn't do that with an owl. It's just completely silent. The beetle jumped. Nasty beetle. Okay. That was the jumping spider. You can see the light has gone from gold to rather pale white yellow, and that's because the day is going to be quite warm. And, well, we're just heading out of winter now, I suppose. One always says that a little bit before one should, because we'll no doubt have another cold spell, and I'm pretty sure yesterday was the coldest day we've had. But it's certainly feeling warm, and the herald of the heat, the chin spot battet, is calling off to the side of us now. There are some birds shouting in this tree, and I think they are green-winged, not green-winged pytilias, yellow-throated petronias. Now that is a fancy way of basically saying a yellow-throated sparrow. You're not allowed to say yellow-throated sparrow anymore. I think the chances of getting a decent picture with it without giving you vertigo are probably very small. So let's carry on here. Beautiful little grove here that we have of these Balanites trees. Brent Smith is now retrying to climb his Balanites tree and show you how to fall out of it. Right, let's carry on. Brian, we don't want to be witness to a crime. He falls out and breaks his. When he falls out and breaks his leg, we'll have to call the police, and then we'll have to be involved in the whole thing. And rather, we just escape. Roberta, nice one from you in California about golden orb-web spiders. Much like with that jumping spider, Roberta, they are scarce at this time of the year. In fact, they're almost non-existent. I would imagine they're not here at all. Skova. Herbert can hear the owl calling down there. We'll carry on gently down this way and see if we can't find it. We're hoping Karula may have come into this area anyway. No golden orb-web spiders at the moment. We did find the other day a garden orb-web spider. Now, Roberta, I don't know if you know what that looks like. It's from the same family. Well, funny enough, all the orb-web spiders, which are the spiders that build a traditional sort of Charlotte's web, if you like, they are all from the same family. And a garden orb-web spider, a colourful thing that I didn't think would occur at this time of the year, but we did find one. But otherwise, just about all the spiders are now dormant, and they're waiting for the rain. And mainly because, of course, they eat. Sorry, that was something that bit me on the foot, but it was a thorn. Mainly because they eat insects, and insects, of course, are not going to be around when it is cold and dry. I thought I saw something interesting here. No. I was hoping to find one of those gall moths on this silver cluster leaf tree. Yeah, look at this growth. Now here's an interesting growth. It's probably been stung by an insect. Now if you look here, it's a silver cluster leaf, and many insects seem to do this to them. It's the end of a twig. This is not a normal part of the tree. And if you look there, can you see the little hole there, Brian?
Yeah.
There's a little hole there. That's a sting from an insect. Now, I don't know which insect it is. I don't think it's the gall moth. I think it's something else that stung it here. They sting the end of the tree, introduce a toxin. The toxin causes this enormous swelling, and I suspect there's probably an egg inside. I'm going to look inside, if you don't mind, everybody. Let's see if we can't break it open. We might need... I've left my knife behind. Hang on a sec. This is not the best way to do it. Especially if you then get a worm in your mouth. Actually isn't anything in here. It may be an old gall. The other thing is that, of course, what it does, the stimulation, the introduction of the toxin, stimulates the growth of the wood, and probably an edible type of wood that whatever larva was deposited in here probably ate before its escape. Right, Leo Smith is now ready for you. He's in his tree, so go and find out if he can descend from it live and with grace.
Well, I'm facing my demons at the moment, and I remember why I loved this tree so much. So the view from up here is quite spectacular. I can see all the way down to the Moati River. I can hear some elephants to the east, hornbills making a racket all around. And it is just a very, very wonderful spot to sit, if one can descend gracefully, which of course last time I didn't. So I actually have bailed off the tree about where this foot is, and it is quite high, and I'm planning to have far more graceful descent this time. But we do apologize about the noise of the Game Drive channel. The little flicky switch is not working, so half of it's going into the earpiece, half of it's coming out open. Ooh. Can you hear elephants again? I think we're going to go look for those eddies. So, hang on. Now, let's see. I'm going to be very careful. I'm not going to be as blasé as I was on my last descent. So, oh dear, these are not the right boots. It's the same boots I was wearing last time that slipped and sent me careering towards the ground. It was much easier coming up, by the way. I don't know if I want to climb down while I'm live. I think maybe I'm just going to sit. Ray said to me, "Your mic, blah, 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 blah." And then I tried to move into a position where the mic was going to work, something like this. And I sped down the tree. I know, you know what? It's going to happen. These are very smooth-soled boots, and they're just not going to work for climbing down trees, so I'm just going to have to take them off. One boot, one sock. Ah, there we go. I feel like I've got grip on the tree now. And we need to just dispose of the other boot. And the other sock. Aha! That's so much better for climbing trees. Unfortunately, not quite as good as a chimpanzee or a gorilla. Ooh, I'm still a bit nervous. Now, falling once is funny. Falling twice from the exact same position is just being an idiot. There we go. So much better having a bit of grip with those toes. And my size 12 feet, fortunately, big feet, equals lots of grip. Now watch, my luck is going to be I'm going to jump down and land on a large thorn. Ha, now you see me, now you don't. I didn't fall down. Now I have to be careful of thorns, but we are underneath a green thorn, which has very large thorns. There we go. One sock, two boots. I'm very happy I didn't fall out of that tree. I think if I had tried to climb in the boots for a second time, I probably would have fallen out of the tree for a second time. See, there's even thorns in my footwell. Good thing I saw that. Okay. So the Ellies sound like they're somewhere between us and quarantine, so we are going to head down towards those elephants. My feet have been quite happy out of their boots. I think I might leave them out there for a while. So we'll go look for those wonderful pachyderms, and let's go to Jamie, who's with the only animal taller than an elephant.
And only fractionally taller than Brent. Although in this case, we've got two little babies that are roughly the same height. And we've got our lovely collection of giraffe at Arathusa, or close to Arathusa Dam. The same ones that were on the sunset safari yesterday. Lovely collection of giraffe, journey of giraffe. A female on the left, and then two little calves. Munching away in the morning sunlight. Bear with me, I'm sorry, I have to just get onto the Game Drive comms and chat to the guys about Shadow, because it sounds as though, in a devastating way, it sounds as though she might have just gone out of our Traverse area. So bear with me 1 second, I just want to confirm that. Tristan for Jamie. Good morning. Has Shadow crossed into EP yet? Copy that, thank you very much. Okay, we've got good news. It looks as though Shadow is going backwards and forwards. So we've got interesting dynamics, and we'll chat about those in a moment. But for now, we have some lovely giraffe to look at. Now, apparently yesterday, on the sunset safari, there was a giraffe that, did you call it the pirate? James did. James called it the pirate with one eye. An old bull giraffe. I don't know where he is at the moment. We've just got these two little ones with their cohort of oxpeckers. Oop. And baby giraffe are the most amazing looking things, because giraffe, as they are, the longer you look at them, the weirder they start to look. I don't know what it is. There's just something so completely unique about them. But baby giraffe even more so, because they're so disproportionate when compared to the adults. Even one this age, which is a couple of months old, probably I would guess at about 6, 7 months old, they've still got that disproportionate look. Really, really long legs so that they can keep up with the adults, and really short necks so that they can still suckle from their mothers. Gives them a totally different image to the adults. Nibbling away. And they can actually be surprisingly noisy when they move through an area. I've mistaken the sounds of a giraffe moving through the bush for an elephant. Lovely. The difference, of course, between giraffe and antelope species, with their ossicones, the horns on the top of their head, they are born with those. So it's not like our antelope species that they start to grow from about 6 months of age. In giraffe, they are born with them. They're basically cartilage when they're born, and they lie flat against the skull so that they don't damage the mother when the mother gives birth. And then they start to stand up within a couple of hours of birth, which is a phenomenal process when you think about it. These little cartilage protrusions that then stand upright and are reinforced with bone. And a giraffe, when it's born, has a sort of a shocking entry into the world. Nothing says welcome to the world, baby, than a 2-meter drop, because a giraffe don't lie down to give birth. They give birth standing up. I remember when I was a child, a guide telling me, and you get good guides and you get bad guides, and one of the rumors that I was told, or one of the sort of old guides, old wives' tale, the equivalent of an old wives' tale for guides, is that baby giraffe don't survive unless they have that 2-meter drop, which is of course complete nonsense. They would be absolutely fine regardless. But it just goes to show how tough they truly are. Close to 100 kilogram baby, dropping 2 meters. And now at a couple of months old, almost completely weaned. Love giraffe. Their flat nostrils, their purple tongues, they truly are completely unique. Is that leaf giving you grief? And before I reposition to have a look at the rest of this journey of giraffe, there is a regular friend of ours at Arathusa Dam, or close to Arathusa Dam, that we regularly see, one of my favourite birds of prey, and I just want to show you it quickly before we reposition. A fish eagle! Immediately identifiable. Oh yes, hello. That was perfectly timed. That flash of white around the head. There are no other eagle species out here that have a totally white head and shoulders. This is an adult fish eagle. And they've been camping out at Arathusa Dam, basically picking up catfish whenever they feel so inclined. A time of plenty for them. There's hardly any water, so it is really like catching fish in a barrel. All they've got to do is swoop down, pick out the catfish that they want whenever they feel hungry. And I've even seen them, we've even seen one on our live safari feeding a juvenile, catching a catfish, taking it into a tree. I thought it had dropped it at first until it called in a juvenile that went and then sat in the leadwood tree and fed off the catfish that it had collected, which I didn't realize that they did. It's one of the wonderful things about live safaris and having the time that we have to spend with the animals and to observe them as closely as we can with this camera. I'm looking for the pirate giraffe. I really want to see him. I don't think he's here though, unfortunately. This is just one of them. Lots and lots. Lovely to see giraffe. I feel they've been lacking in our lives recently. Nibbling away on the buffalo thorns. Good morning, Lauren. It's apparently just talking about our lack of giraffe, or what feels like a lack of giraffe. I'm sure they've been around. This is Lauren's first giraffe sighting. So it's lovely to have you, Lauren. And I'm glad that we could share this with you. And it is a lovely sighting. The female and her calf feeding side by side. They have truly been scarce, though, Lauren. And for our newer viewers, so much so that we've actually had a few viewers ask whether or not we do see giraffe, because they've been absent. I don't know where they've all been. I don't know why it is. Okay, there you go. Those patches on the skin before we move off, because I do have to start moving in the direction of Shadow's sighting. And there we go. We've got, talking about skin diseases. Giraffe are even more prone to skin disease than buffalo. And they particularly seem to suffer from the herpes virus, or one of the strains of the herpes virus that causes skin diseases. This is not what they've got at the moment. The herpes causes the almost bulbous protrusions that you'll often see on giraffe, particularly if you go through and visit Kruger. You will see it. In this case, those bald patches are probably fungal infections. And then something that is constantly worried at by the OxPeckers. So whilst they're hugely helpful in terms of picking up ticks, they will also worry at injuries or bald wounds. Now, while we've got the two calves wandering about, it's a very, very common question that we get and that Michael has asked, which is whether or not giraffe have twins and if these calves are both the female's calves. The answer is giraffe can have twins. It is far more unusual than originally thought. They will have twins, but it's almost about as rare as elephants having twins. But what often happens is you get little giraffe creches, and that's where the idea came from, that giraffe have twins, because the females will actually leave their babies for extended periods of time and will remain quite separate from their little ones. And the natural herding instinct of giraffe means that if they find other babies, they will then join up with them. And it often looks like they're associating with a female that was their mother, when in fact she isn't. So most likely, and also the big difference here is that there is a vast, good couple of months age difference between the two baby giraffe. There's a considerable size difference. So they will not have been born from the same mother. Now, I know we haven't seen that many giraffe, but I'm desperate to go and see what's happening with Shadow. As I said, there's some interesting dynamics at play. Salihesha is here. Shadow is on the other side of her. I don't know what went on last night, but I think that there were some very, very interesting aspects of our female leopard dynamics. And we'll talk more about that once we get to that sighting. And hopefully Shadow is still on Arethusa. But while we head in that direction, let's go across to Brent for an update.
So we've heard crew alarm callings to the north, so we're rushing there. I am, of course, on top of the world. I've managed to defeat my demon tree, and the Balanites, or torture tree on Balanites Road, is moved back into one of my favorite trees on Juma after falling. Well, I was the one who did the falling, but it fell down on my favorite tree list. It's now back there. The view from up there was absolutely spectacular. So it sounds like there's lion tracks and kudu alarming around Gowrie Cut Line. So we're going to head there. 3 Birmingham boys have been discovered in Buffels Hook outside of our traverse zone. But there's tracks of the females and cubs coming in. So we are motoring over to that general area. So the reason I'm driving so fast is I want to get there before the kudu stop alarm calling. So if the kudu are alarm calling, they can actually probably see the lions. So I want to see where the kudu are looking and what they're alarming at. Who knows? I might be wrong. It might not be lions. It might be a leopard. But still, very exciting. And remember, we're on a live African safari. You can ask us questions by using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email questions@wildearth.tv. So while we rush towards where we think the lions might be, let's go across to James, who's got something. Hang on 1 second. No, false alarm. James has got something that is even stranger than me in a tree.
I dispute that. I'm not entirely sure that there's anything stranger than Brent Leo Smith in a tree. Anyway, what is in the tree here is the skin of a snake. 2 snakes in the same tree, and it's not surprising, mainly because this is a ziziphus tree, which means it's got thorns on it. And what the snakes do, for those of you who are perhaps not au fait with reptile biology, a snake doesn't kind of grow in its skin. It grows out of a skin when it gets bigger, and it's got to crawl out of the skin. It's the same thing that happens with many geckos. It's the same thing that happens with invertebrates like scorpions, for example. They crawl out of their exoskeleton. In this case, obviously, the skin is a protective layer, but it doesn't grow. Because it's got to grow in so many facets, or in so many different places, it's much easier for it to just grow a new skin underneath this one. So what it did here, if you look where I'm pointing now with my stick, that's where the head was. And you can see that this particular part of the snake skin is attached to a thorn. There, it was that thorn there. You see that? Now, what they do is they'll walk up there, they'll rub their noses against a branch, and by rubbing their noses against the branch, it'll break the skin will open up, and then they'll hook that little kind of flap onto a thorn like that, and then wriggle slowly out of the old skin, leaving it behind on a thorny tree like this. And there's a bigger one over here. I'm going to guess that that could have been a boomslang or tree snake, but I think that's probably a common guess, and I think it's a common guess because we see tree snakes, unsurprisingly, in trees. But many snakes climb really well. The cobras climb well, the mambas climb well. And so it could be any of them that have chosen to climb up into this tree to use the thorns to help them get rid of the old skin. That one shining a very, very pleasant silver color. Don't you think, Brian? Brian thinks so. Right, let us go. We did find a little spider, a jumping spider, like the ones whose nest we found, but unfortunately it jumped away from us. It was very tiny. Amber, you're interested in what kind of snakes there are here. Ooh, Amber, there are many kinds of snakes here. The most common would be something like a puff adder, which looks a bit like a rattlesnake. Then you get Mozambican spitting cobras, snouted cobras, black mambas, vine snakes, tree snakes, yellow-bellied sand snakes, African rock pythons, coral snakes. What else would we find? Many different kinds of what we call burrowing asps. So lots and lots of different snakes. Most of them harmless, all of them shy, and so the chance of being devoured or bitten by a snake are very small. Now, what's interesting is, you know how many people, I'd like you to guess, here I don't often do a quiz live, but my quiz for you today is how many people a year do you think die of snake bite in South Africa? This great wilderness area full of snakes. How many people die of snake bite every year in Africa? I'll tell you in just a little while. Something to look forward to. This is the deeply, deeply stinky hoof of a buffalo. There we are. And you can see a hoof is not very edible at all. Now, what's interesting about this to me is that you can buy these things to give to your dogs, and you find them in the sort of pet section of a supermarket. There's a reason that they're available to dogs, or that they're available to buy, is that because they're totally indigestible. Now, there's also a reason that the carnivores out here don't eat them, and that's because they are totally indigestible. Therefore, to feed this to your dog is not actually a good idea, because its stomach has not evolved to digest the keratin and various other substances that there are here in an animal's hoof. This is the same kind of substance as you'd find in a rhino horn, by the way. Totally indigestible to human and to dog. And the only other thing that's left of this buffalo, which was obviously killed some time ago, well, in fact, it's probably not that long ago, because it really might be from a different animal. That still stinks. So I don't think it's very old. It's been dragged here, I suspect, by a young hyena. Look at the tooth here. The other thing that is completely indigestible. And I think this was quite an old buffalo, and I say that because of the ridges here on the top of the tooth. And they've eaten away. You can see the enamel on the outside, the dentine in the middle. That's the kind of stuff that looks a little bit discolored, and a kind of interwoven lattice work here of herbivores' molar. Quite big, isn't it, Brian? Bigger than mine.
Wonderful.
Yes. Thank you. All right, on we go. Now, Amber, you're wondering about what kind of poisonous snakes we get here. Well, we don't get any poisonous snakes, Amber. If you catch a snake here, you can kill it and eat it. And therefore, they are not poisonous. They're venomous. They are able to envenomate or inject venom into you. So we call them venomous. Puff adders, cobras, mambas, and worm stung and tree snake. And then we get something called a stiletto snake, which is a part of the family of asps. They can be quite venomous as well. Any answers to my profound quiz yet, Rebecca? She's not talking to me. Right, thank you. Lots of viewers have answered very nicely my quiz for the day. How many people die of snake bites in South Africa every year? And 25 to 250 seems to be the range. The answer is 12. 12 people die a year of snake bites. Now, just to give you an idea of how little that is, more people probably die falling out of their beds than they do of snake bites. 20,000 people a year in the United States of America die falling out of their beds in the morning. So the chances of you being killed by a snake are very small indeed. And it's more people get killed by cows, as Brian just said to me. Yes, many more. Oh, here is the skull of something definitely not killed by a snake. It's quite interesting. What do you think this is? I think this is a wildebeest. You see how the horns come straight out the side like that? It's got a fairly flat head. Oh, and you can see all the different bones of the skull. I think that's really fascinating. I'm still trying to learn the different bones. That one, as far as I know, is the lacrimal bone under the tear ducts. This will be the frontal bone. There will be a maxillar bone somewhere around there. The orbital, what is that called? The orbital condyle. No, it's not a condyle. It's called the zygomatic arch. But the other thing that's interesting here, I think, is the fact that we think of wildebeest as being particularly dim-witted. The brain is at least the size of a buffalo's, if not bigger. So although wildebeest look gormless, you know you've met many people in the world who look profoundly gormless, but are in fact highly intelligent. I think the wildebeest is cleverer than we give it credit for. Marvellous. That's all I have to tell you about that. Okay, on we go. Oh, look at this flower, everybody. Look at this thing. Hello, Aubrey. While we look at this flower, perfect time to answer your question. You say you've always wanted to do a tour in Africa, but is it dangerous? Aubrey, I don't have a death wish. Do you, Brian?
No.
Brian doesn't have a death wish. Herbert doesn't have a death wish. Brent doesn't, and nor does Jamie. Aubrey, the reason I say that, and I'm being a little bit flippant with you, is that it's completely safe. Obviously, it depends where you go. If you go on a tour in downtown Lagos, Nigeria, without any idea of where you are, then yes, probably it could be dangerous. But to come on safari in South Africa or East Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, obviously South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, just beautiful, beautiful places. You can't believe how stunning these places are. It's perfectly safe. They're set up for tourism, and much of the livelihood of their economies is derived from ecotourism. So it's perfectly safe, Aubrey, and you really shouldn't worry about the safety. And that goes for anybody who's thinking about coming to Africa. It's safe from a human point of view, and it's safe from an animal point of view. Of course, you'll go on safari with a guide who knows what he's doing with any luck, and so you will be kept safe by someone like that. But mostly, you'll get in touch with, well, possibly the world's oldest landscape, and it'll be a great experience. So please don't worry about the safety. Just get online. You'll find hundreds of very reputable tour operators who will bring you to very safe parts of our brilliant country and continent. Now, this plant is part of the Kalenko family, or Chalinchoe, some people call it. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it correctly. And I think these are the seeds. I think this thing's flowered already, and I think the seeds are inside here. They come up out of the ground with an astonishing speed. I mean, that thing would have grown from its bulb. It's on a big bulb under the ground. It would have grown into this plant probably in about half a day. Yeah, no, that actually hasn't bloomed yet. So if we look inside here, you can see there that I've opened up the flower that isn't quite ready to open. And if you look in there, you might just be able to see the male plants. Can you see it all? Those discolored or copper-colored things are the male parts of the plant, and then the female parts just inside that. So that's Kalenchoe or Chalinchoe or Kalenko. I quite like Kalenko. I think it's a bit easier to say. On we go. Now we've come around here hoping to find some kind of sign of Karula, the great queen of Djuma. If you are a new viewer, Karula, an 12-year-old female leopard, 2 cubs, who's been delighting us for the last little while. We're hoping she came in around here. Herbie found her tracks yesterday. So we'll keep looking in the trees for 1 or 2 things hanging from them. Perhaps a... I was going to say perhaps an antelope hanging from a tree, as Daryl's question came through. Daryl's question is, how many people die in Africa from falling out of trees? I don't know. I guarantee you it's more than those that die from snake bite. Okay, let's go back across. I think we're going to Brent to get an update from him.
Well, as you can see, I am not Brent, I am Jamie, and I'm searching for Shadow. We have really tragic news. Not tragic yet. It's not tragic yet. The search is not over, but unfortunately the guides that were with her lost track of where she was. They couldn't stick with her. But she was seen heading in this direction, so they lost her while they were trying to keep up with her. As you know, that does happen. When you're traveling through dense vegetation, you just lose track of the animal. You can't see exactly where they've gone. It becomes very, very difficult to follow them through certain areas. But she was heading in this direction. I don't think she's going to go much further west. We're right on the boundary with Elephant Plains at the moment. I don't think she's going to go further to the west. I think she's going to stick around somewhere here. The Murakeni, the river system that runs along the western boundary of Arethusa, has always been her boundary. But things are changing. Things are very, very interesting with Shadow at the moment because of the slow intrusion of Saleshe and her female cub. Okay, let's concentrate now. This is where she was heading. Wah, are you go away bird? Are you calling at me or are you calling at a leopard? This is exactly where the guides thought she was heading to. Interestingly, this road is called Road 7. Alright, let's go over to Brent. Our signal's not doing very well. We'll catch up with you later.
So I'm very confused at the moment. So Aubrey has called me, and all he's told me is he's got a big bonus for me. So I was actually on foot looking for, we actually found lion tracks, but Aubrey said, come here, I've got a bonus for you. So I, for once, and as much as I love hiding things from you guys, and surprising, I'm going on my way to something I have absolutely no idea what it is. So that's why I'm driving so fast. And so Aubrey's exactly where this are, and I love Aubrey because he's just so sort of calm. He's like, Brent, come here, I've got more kudu bonus. I've got a large bonus for you. So what the bonus is, I'm hoping it's something. Oh, actually, I think I know what it is. I think I know what it is. I think I've just worked it out. It's a pangolin. I think it's a pangolin. I just worked it out. That's the reason. I think it's a pangolin. I hope I'm right. So I'm actually speeding up now. I actually really think it's a pangolin. Now, hopefully, I don't get too excited and it's a dwarf mongoose, but. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. It's cryptic, but it's not moving fast. So, could we be that lucky? Could we be that lucky?
Oh, dearie me, we seem to be having signal problems with Brent. I'm all the way on the western boundary of Arethusa, so our signal is also particularly interesting right now. And Shadow was seen somewhere here. I'm really hoping something's going to give her position away. A call, maybe an alarm call of some monkeys, a go-away bird. She's here somewhere. I think my next step, I don't know what my next step is. I'm debating. There's a go-away bird calling, but it's not really an alarm call, it's just a call. And when something like this happens, when a leopard disappears from a known site they're moving, is to hope that perhaps an animal sees them. You could bump into them, of course.
Now that's a Cardinal Woodpecker, everybody. The Cardinal Woodpecker is making the call that Herbert was talking about earlier that I was telling you about. That I said it was a Bennett's. Bennett's makes a similar call, but that's the Cardinal. Herbie found this bird and he said, this is the one. What does it do? It tells you that there are bees around.
No, the bees for honey, or it indicates happiness.
Okay. So that it says it indicates that there are bees around for honey, or that you will be happy, correct?
Yeah, now we're looking for leopard tracks.
Okay, we're looking for leopard tracks, so this is a good sign. Apparently, Herbert thinks this is very amusing. But a wonderful sight there of a cardinal woodpecker. Normally we find them just pecking gently. And that's a male, being very territorial. By far the smallest woodpecker species we get here. You can't hear it, of course, you don't really have much ambient sound. It's going... That's really cool. Hello, David. You're in California, which is the New World. And in the same way as your New World, your wines there are called New World wines. So it is that the question you asked has to do with the New World. The New World, the Americas, and that has a whole suite of different biological species, often with what we call convergent or convergent evolution. Now, David, your question's about hummingbirds and whether we get them here. We don't get hummingbirds here. There goes the woodpecker. But we do get something similar called a sunbird. And a sunbird and a hummingbird are two examples of what we call convergent evolution. They've both got long bills for eating or drinking the nectar out of flowers. They can both hover if they have to. The sunbirds don't hover a great deal, but they can if they need to. Your hummingbirds obviously do quite a lot of hovering. But they only occur in the New World. They don't occur on this side of the Atlantic at all. So they only occur in South America and North America. And it's quite a nice example. In fact, it's one of the often quoted examples of what we call convergent evolution. Two unrelated species that have evolved very similar strategies to deal with similar ecological problems or ecological challenges. In this case, trying to find nectar or drink the nectar out of flowers. Brilliant question. Thank you for that, David. Let's continue down here. Brent is on his way to the sighting that we hoped we would find, I hope. So we're going to just change our route slightly and we'll head down towards Treehouse Dam and see what's going on there. There's a little bit of water in it, so maybe something will be coming down to drink. A peaceful Sunday duiker, perhaps. A peaceful Sunday bushbuck. It is a very peaceful day, as it should be on Sunday, don't you think, Brian? Yes, Brian agrees with me. Sundays should be peaceful times of the year, of the week, sorry. Right. I'm just looking through this dung field here. We're standing in amongst much dung. Now, dung can be quite an interesting thing to look at. It's not always. I was hoping to find you the comparison between zebra dung and warthog dung, because they can look quite similar, but Herbert has just, well, a few days ago pointed out the difference. Now, this is all broken up, of course. Well, this is, as far as I'm aware, ooh, this is quite interesting. I don't want to make a mistake, certainly not within earshot of Herbert. Okay, he's walked away. I can tell you what I like now. No, I can't. This is zebra dung, and they've all got cracks down the middle like that. And it's the same as a horse's dung. So if you ever find a horse's dung or something that looks like horse's dung, check it out. There should be a crack down the middle of it like that. When it's fresher, it's not quite as, it doesn't look like it's broken up. It's actually much more clear. Then with a warthog, that it's very similar sized, but it's irregularly shaped. You don't have that crack down it. Now let's check out what this zebra's been eating. That is an unusual thing to find in a zebra's dung, because it's structural plant material. You can see it has hardly been digested at all. It is a sign that we're in the middle of a drought. The other thing to look out for in it is how it's really quite coarse. It's not very fine. It's almost like mini elephant dung. And that's because zebras, much like elephants, are not ruminants. They don't re-chew their food. There's lots of structural stuff in here. It means these zebras are now onto not eating so much leaf material, but the structural stuff. Now, if you look down here where my stick is pointing, what you can see is that there is some leaf, there is some green leaf there, which is quite nice, and that's just from this new rain that we've had. Now that's very unusual. This zebra, which made this done probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago before this flush, was eating this kind of stuff here. See, it's like straw. And that's why it's such coarse dung. Right. On we go. We're going on to Philemon's cut line now. And this was kind of used as a fire break. You know what, we were asked a wonderful question yesterday about wildfires and how we deal with them and were we worried about them. And so I gave a long explanation yesterday about why we're not worried about them this year, and it's got to do with the drought and the lack of fuel load on the ground. But if we'd had, say, and we're expecting this year a very above average rainfall year, which was, I mean, expecting that's not gambling, but it could happen. What you'd have here is a fire break. So you mow this area and you keep it short grassed, because if a big fire does come from the north or from the south, you can then fight it from this point. So you can start a back burn, which is a burn that goes towards the fire. Alternatively, you can put a line of beaters up here, or you can wet the ground, and it gives you just a kind of a beachhead almost for which to start fighting a fire. This year, it's really not going to be an issue, but on many years, you need these fire breaks throughout the reserve, and especially around your camps. That's really where you want a fire break, because fires can endanger camps hugely. Now, Brian, only because it's winter, we can see a whole big herd of impala there. Can you see them? They are miles away. But in summertime, everyone, we would never see that herd of impala on foot or in a vehicle. They're probably a good, I don't know, 200 meters away maybe. That's about 700 feet. That's wonderful. Michael, a brilliant question from you. We've had some really good ones today. You say, what is the difference between a grazer and a browser, and can you be both? A grazer eats grass like this. I'm currently grazing. Very nice. And a browser eats leaves from trees, like this, over here. Now, they taste very different. And some animals can eat both. Those impala can eat both. Some animals can't, like kudu. Kudu will eat largely leaves. They will sometimes eat grass if there's enough really good grass around, but normally they will only eat leaves. The animals, the mixed feeders that are able to eat both, generally do a little bit better in drought times. The impala are doing okay at the moment. And generally, the smaller you are, the richer the food you have to eat, and so they tend to eat more the leaves. The reason there's a difference, the reason one cannot be eaten with the other, is that they produce different chemicals, and they have a different, what we call, carbon cycle, as far as I remember it. And what that means is that the chemicals involved in the plants and nutrients are slightly different, which means you need slightly different digestive enzymes, slightly different system of digestion to eat grass especially, or to be a specialist browser. And you tend to find that the bigger the animals get, elephants are a notable exception, but all of the other large animals like rhino, hippo, buffalo, eland, all of those big animals tend to be what we call bulk grazers. And so it's not a fixed rule, but the larger the animal is out here, the more likely it is going to be a grazer. Notable exception being an elephant, which will eat just about anything, and a giraffe, which is a very big animal, well over a ton in mass, and they, of course, are exclusively browsers. But it does mean that they have to deal with this different suite of chemicals and defenses. Righty. Now, I feel like I haven't quite hit the nail on the head with why the different feeding strategy is such, and so I think I'm going to have to do a bit of research into that. Feels It's like it should be really obvious, but it isn't. Justin S., you want to know about the fastest growing tree out here? The fastest growing tree? I don't know. I think it's probably one of the acacias, maybe a flaky thorn acacia like the one we saw earlier. Very few of the trees here grow quickly, Justin. With these combretum, for example, this one's also done very well to have escaped the attentions of elephants. These combretums grow very slowly because they're so dense. 1,230 kilograms per cubic meter is what a combretum's density is, which I'm not going to try and convert to imperial on a Sunday morning. I feel that's beyond my Sunday brain. Very slow growing. The acacias not so dense, some of them, like a flaky thorn acacia, so they grow quite quickly. The other thing that grows quickly, I think you'll find, would be something like a roundleaf teak. But they put up shoots very quickly, but they don't necessarily grow very quickly. All of the trees here grow pretty slowly, you know. And how many feet they grow a year? Well, a leadwood tree, probably grows, I think, what is the figure for a leadwood? A leadwood tree probably grows about 2 feet in a year, so they really grow extremely slowly. Marulas not so slowly. A marula tree the size of, say, that big one over there, I'm going to say is probably about 30 or 40 years old. I'm looking at Herbert, who's not paying attention, because I'm trying to get him to corroborate. How old do you think that thing is? You think he's right? He says about 30 or 40 years old. Now, leadwood that size would be well over 100 years old. Thank you, Justin. Good question. Right, Brent has got some signal, and I think he's probably also got your Sunday surprise.
Now, this is the most frustrating little moment. So we're right on the edge of a very steep little ravine. And the big bonus was Karula grabbed an adult impala in front of Aubrey. He said he caught it in front of his car, 2 meters from him. But she's now dragged it into this ravine. And we've tried about 29 different positions to try and get a view, and we haven't managed to get one yet. So if we stand up, we can see, but the camera can't see. So of course we want to share this with you. So bear with us while we maneuver around to try and get a view. So she's in. Can you see the impala, Jeandre? So literally where Jeandre is showing you is exactly where the kill is. Okay, I think I might be able to get it. Standing by. Copy at the... I've got it. Jeandre, you go forward for a bit. You go back. So she's literally in the worst spot in the world for us. So there we go. You've got a spot. And it is Queen Karula, the dominant female leopard on Djuma. And she's got an impala kill right there. I'm trying to think where we can go. We can't get anywhere. I've tried from both sides. Jeandre, are you feeling adventurous? Yes, Jeandre is feeling adventurous, and so am I. So, now, of course, you know we don't drive over slow-growing trees. So, and on this area, there's lots of timberti trees, which are slow-growing trees, but we can sneak between them, I hope. And not going to be. I have a recurring nightmare about Wendy's clutch failing and falling into a drainage line, so hopefully it's not going to become the truth. that is a timberwitchy tree. We shall not be pushing that. So I'm going to try to get onto this little spit of land to the left of us here. Watch out. Yes, we are hoping that my recurring nightmare doesn't come true, as we're stuck. Oh, she's a bit upset. Okay. I'm just not going to move any further. So she's cleaning herself. I'm trying to have a look if it's a male or female impala. We can't see. So we're going to try and maneuver ourselves into a better position. So while we do that, let's go see how Jamie's search on Arethusa is going.
Oh, exciting stuff. It sounds as though Brent has managed to locate a very, very special cat. Unfortunately, we have had less success, and I have stopped to listen for the sounds of the bush and also to stop and look at this beautiful jackalberry tree that I'm convinced should have a leopard in it. It doesn't, though. But Liam was just telling me that you had mvula in this tree. Month or two ago.
Quite a while.
Okay. There's a perfect leopard tree. If I were a leopard, that's where I would be sitting. If I were Shadow, I would be up in the arms of the jackalberry tree. Absolutely beautiful. And clearly, if we just have a look at the base quickly, I don't know how clearly you'll be able to see it, but the base of the jackalberry tree, it's been burnt. It's survived, it's managed to survive a fire. It's hollowed out. Most of it has disappeared, but it's still managed to grow. It's still alive. I wonder how old this tree is. A couple of 100 years. And speaking of the burning and the fact that this tree has obviously survived a fire in its life, Justin S., welcome to our sunrise safari. Justin would like to know, if there is a situation where the vegetation has become very, very thick, will a reserve do a controlled burn in order to prevent wildfires from spreading? And yes, absolutely. Fire is actually an integral part of this habitat, and what it does is it prevents moribund material, so all the dead grasses, trees, from building up too much and basically messing with the balance between the tree layer and the grass layer. So fires are a naturally occurring event, and the difficulty is, of course, for lodge managers and for conservationists is how to manage it so that you don't run the risk of losing the lodge or burning a huge area. So most places do controlled burns, roughly between 5 to 7 years. Every 5 to 7 years, that patch of earth will be burnt. It's a very difficult thing, and it's something that has to be done absolutely scientifically, so you've got to do it right. You can't let it happen that you can't do it on a windy day. You've got to make sure that the wind is blowing in the right direction. You've got to start a back burn to stop it from spreading beyond where you think it was. And I mean, I've been on a controlled burn where we ended up fighting fires until 9 o'clock at night. That's just how it goes. Sometimes the wind picks up and it just carries the fire. This year, there's no way that we would do it because of the drought. All right, I'm just listening to the game drive comms as well. Sorry everybody, it's a sighting of a female leopard, but it is not on our traverse area, so that's why I was distracted. That was the white-backed vulture, by the way, that you were looking at while I was intently listening to my game drive comms. It's amazing. We had 50 vultures around that kill at Red Dam. They have all dispersed off in different direction, and VM was telling me that they went back and it was there was no evidence that there was ever a buffalo in that dam. It's incredible how fast the scavengers work out here. But yes, sorry, fires, there's no way we would burn at the moment because we'd actually do more damage than good because we don't know if it's going to rain. We don't know if the area will recover. So I know that James was giving a demonstration yesterday as to how difficult it would be to actually start a proper runaway fire. There's nothing to burn. It's the strange thing about fires. They're easy to start. It's actually quite difficult to get them to continue unless you really don't want them to, in which case they do very well. And it's a scary thing, fighting fire. Some of you will know about that. You will have experienced, if you're from California, for example, or Australia, you will have experienced how fast a runaway felt fire can actually blow. I'm distracted by the aeroplane that's just flown overhead, straight into the sun, unfortunately. You'll know exactly how fast it can go and how scary it can be. And when you find yourself driving down roads with walls of flame on either side of you, it is a very interesting experience. But fires at the moment, this area where we are now would burn for a while. There's a couple of dead trees, there's some vegetation, but it doesn't spread that easily. I wonder if we should try and carry on towards Red Dam and see whether or not shadow pops out there. Oh, plane's gone all the way around. Here we go. Some guests arriving. Everybody wave hello. Welcome to your holiday. I actually can't move because my signal's not stable enough, so we'll watch the aeroplane going into land. Safari Hayes was wondering what would a leopard look like lying in a tree. It would be spotted. It would be sort of a golden color, and it would have spots on it, and it would be stretched out, looking incredibly comfortable as only a leopard can look, even in the most uncomfortable of positions. I'm going to try and move, speaking of uncomfortable positions, because I think our signal's going to disappear when we do. So for now, let's go back over to James, find out how his walk is going.
I've been instructed by Brian, erstwhile cameraman, that I need to find an insect or something, and he then looked, I said there aren't any around. He said there are, look at this log, it's got all the insects in it. So now I'm looking in this log for insects, and I'm not finding any, but I am finding that this wood has been eaten. Look at this. It's rotted away and been eaten, I think, probably by termites. But we picked a bad log to look at because it is a combretum log, which means that it is massively hard. And this is that very hard wood, 1,230 kilograms per cubic decimeter, which means that if you were to put this log in water, what would happen, Brian?
It would sink.
It would sink like a stone. Correct. I can't see any other form of insect here. Brian, I have found you an amazing thing, though. You wait there. I will bring it for you. You're going to be so amazed that I don't think you'll be able to breathe. So just sort of stand on those big feet of yours.
Right.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, there it is. Are you amazed?
I am.
You're speechless, aren't you?
I am. I can hardly breathe.
Yes, that is the segment, everybody, from a millipede's exoskeleton.
Ah.
Mm.
It was a good log after all.
It was a brilliant log, Brian. That's thoroughly entertaining. Anyway, not much going on that particular log. And the reason there aren't many insects around is because, well, it's still dry. And insects need water and heat to survive, as evidenced by the number you will find in any rainforest. Ask Brent Smith about his time in the Gabonese rainforest, and he will tell you that, well, while it was an interesting experience, I think if you were to ask him if he'd like to go back there, he'd probably go pale. And one of the reasons for that is the astonishing number of insecta that occur in those areas. All right, now Brent has managed to find some signal, and once again the Sunday surprise.
She's passing right behind the vehicle. So we are 100% sure she's on her way to fetch the future prince and princess of Djuma, Hosana and Shongile. Now she's also choosing, being a Queen Karula, possibly the area that the elephants have pushed down every single tree. As you can see, she's moving through some very broken country at the moment. We will try to stick with her. Station on Weaver's Nest.
Any last breath?
Yeah, it's actually, she's coming towards the Ndlela. I'm going to start my mover now. She's just to the south of where I am. Sorry about this, guys. AFM tax, just come on Weaver's Nest, where all those knobthorn thickets that have been pushed over. She's coming back towards the Ndlela there. Okay, so when I mean elephants have pushed down every tree, I mean literally every single tree. Apart from the odd quarry, around us is a knobthorn graveyard, which will be very, very productive for grass. But also the thing is that even though the trees have been pushed down, they still grow. Hold on, we're going to try and zoot around. Now, Aubrey had me absolutely flummoxed when he made me said it had a big bonus. I will not lie, I thought it was a pangolin. And I'm not saying seeing Karula isn't wonderful, but I really thought he had a pangolin. I was very excited for a Sunday pangolin, but maybe Karula will lead us to one. Okay, so she's around here. There's taxi. Do you see him, Fo? Ah, there we go. You got her, Jean-Ray? There she is. So we're pretty sure the cubs are to the south. And it's an adult female impala, in case you were wondering. Queen Karula is on a roll when it comes to kills. Oh, isn't she just gorgeous? And you can see she's very hungry. You can see the depression at the back of her legs there. But she does have a full impala kill. Now, what I'm hoping, even though it is a big adult female impala, if she removes the stomach and eats the heart, liver, and lungs, she might be able to hoist it. Because if she leaves it on the ground, the hyenas will almost definitely steal it. Sorry, there you go. You can see Fan's leg. Well, morning Amber. Amber's wondering how long does it take leopards to drag a kill into the tree and how high will they go? Now, Amber, it completely depends on the individual leopard and the animal they've caught and the weight of the animal. There we go. And so for Karula at the moment, an adult female impala is probably a bit heavy for her to drag without removing the stomach. So it'll probably take her a few hours. Hopefully, for her sake, the hyenas don't find it first. Now, that is the biggest problem for a leopard, is losing their kill to other predators, and specifically hyenas, sometimes lions. And that's the reason they do put their kills in a tree. And they can, I've seen leopard kills up to sort of 7 or 8 meters. Generally, the first and most accessible, comfortable branch is where they'll leave it. So what she's done, she's killed that impala. She's on her way to fetch Hosana and Shongile, and then she's going to lead them back to that feast. And, well, I suppose if you're a Karula, you've got a Sunday roast in the oven. Now, because of the Olympics, I don't know, what discipline do you guys think is Karula's specialty? What is she the gold medal in? I'm not sure. I can't decide what Karula's specialty is, whether it's high jump, long jump, or jump on impala. So let me know what you think Karula's specialty in the Olympics is, and send me your answers through to hashtag Safari Live or questions at wildearth.tv. My specialty, it is collecting branches under cars. I think I'd get a gold medal for that. So while we try to catch up with the Queen of Djuma on her way to fetch the future reigning prince and princess, let's see what Jamie's got.
Well, it might not be the daughter of the Queen of Djuma, but we have found ourselves some good signal and at the same time encountered a lovely herd of elephant feeding in a river system that flows from a dam called Red Dam. Hello. A big female wandering up to us. It is a female. She's got very thick tusks. Oh, big girl. You are lovely. You see she's got liquid running down the side of her face that comes from a gland called the temporal gland that sits between the eyes and the ears of an elephant and is usually a sign that they've been stressed in some way, for whatever reason it may be. It can also just be a sign of excitement or happiness. Basically, any heightened emotion is expressed through an elephant's temporal gland. It's part of their communication with other elephants. I'm going to try now and reposition. Now that that cow has moved away from where the vehicle was, I'm going to try and reposition because there's a tiny, tiny little elephant calf with this particular herd, and I want to see if we can get a view. Perhaps it's Benjamin. You never know. Benjamin, for new viewers, is an elephant calf with the wrinkliest forehead any of us have ever seen before in our lives. Oh, let's go over to Brent. He's got the Queen of Djuma.
There she is, the beautiful Karula, mere feet from the front of our vehicle, on her way to fetch Hosana and Shungile and take them back to that impala carcass. So depending on where they are, we might not see her again on this sunrise safari, but the sunset safari we shall definitely be spoilt to Karula and the cubs. Okay. She's about to head on to Gowrie Main, which is our southern boundary. Just trying to find a gap. Oh, so many trees pushed over by the... Oh, that's going to hurt. Elephants. I thought that was going to... Ow. It did get me in the end, but I thought it was going to whip around at high speed. Are we behind us there? Okay. Yeah, I've seen my gap. Safari Dean reckons Karula will win the gold in gymnastics. That's quite a good one, Safari Dean. I'm trying to see where she's gone. You got it? Ah, there we go. So I just need to let the guys know to the south of us. Roy.
Here we go.
Did you copy about Karula? She's just crossed back south. She's Bambida Makulu Mamba on Vuyatela side, but I think she's going back to fetch Mambimban.
Copy, thank you. Yeah, I copy that. Thanks, Brent.
Okay, so she's disappearing into Little Gowrie.
Reporting out about Houston, Gala still off Annette's driveway.
There she goes. But we might not see her again this sunrise safari, but we are going to be incredibly spoiled come sunset safari, because I'm quite sure she would have brought Hosana and Shangile to that impala, and I'm really hoping she takes the tummy out and puts it in a tree. Otherwise, she's going to lose it to hyenas. And we can't see her anymore. She's disappeared from view. But yay for Queen Karula, and so happy she's managed to catch herself a Sunday roast. Now I'm almost at a loss at what to do next. I'm still so happy about seeing Queen Karula. What should we look for next, Chandra? Elephant. Oh no, we're not going to look for elephants because JB's already found them. Let's go have a look.
And we have indeed, and such exciting prospects for this afternoon sunset safari. But for now, we have got our herd of elephants and one tiny, tiny little baby, just a couple of months old. So still, from what I can see, it still hasn't even reached the stage of about 6 months old and feeding on solid food. Little baby. Let's reposition and try and get a different view of them. They're playing hard to get at the moment, disappearing behind some thick vegetation. Let's try and get a different view. Guys. Setting the engine run a little bit. Oh no! Don't! As soon as I moved, they did. And welcome to Amber, while we try and reposition to get a different view of our elephants who are playing hard to get. Amber wants to know, because we were talking about giraffe births earlier, whether or not elephants give birth like giraffe. Do they stand or do they lie down? They stand. So it is a similar thing that, again, 2-meter drop, essentially. That is their introduction to the world. I have heard of elephants. Sorry, I'm just going to see what these boys are doing. I have heard of elephants lying down to give birth, but it's very rare. The amazing thing, I've witnessed the aftermath of a birth. I have never seen an elephant give birth in the wild, and it's one of my absolute dreams. Seeing that and actually seeing it live would be truly incredible. But it is something that they generally do secretively, because of course they are relatively vulnerable when it happens. But the amazing thing is that it's a process that involves the whole family, the whole herd will be involved, and they will stand in a protective circle around the female. You've got some young boys jostling here. One of them's definitely got the advantage of height. A little bit of head-butting going on. Young males, roughly, I would guess, at about 5-ish years old. Just playing, testing out their strength. It's lovely to be a part of an elephant herd because you've got the protection and then you've also got some company to keep you occupied whilst the adults are busy eating. Baby elephants do get bored. And this is how they entertain themselves, practicing the skills that will stand them in good stead later in their lives. Can you imagine seeing an elephant birth live? I'm distracted by that thought now. How absolutely incredible it would be. Look at the little one. I want to play too. Not big enough though. Let me play, let me play. Trying to push into the fight. Curious as to what the older cousins are doing. And basically just getting in the way of what is a very good game. Push each other into the drainage line. And they will continue to do this throughout their lives. Even adult elephant bulls often spar with each other to determine their dominance, to practice the skills that they need. It's only ever if there is a female in estrus and 2 relatively equal-sized elephant bulls that they will actually come to serious blows. But for the most part, conflict between elephants, major conflict I mean, is rare. They're not territorial. They don't begrudge any other elephant herds sharing their space. The bulls often just wander off on their own or associate with the females. But a serious elephant fight would also be something I've seen one in my life in the bush. It was awe-inspiring and actually quite terrifying to see the two behemoths charging at each other. And you can imagine it. I mean, these boys are little still. Little and unskilled, haven't quite worked out the advantage of having a bit of height really makes. You can imagine that elephant like the one that we had on the sunset safari yesterday. He came and stood over us. It was one of the biggest, to me, is the biggest elephant I have seen since on Djuma, or in the Sabi Sand. Just in terms of size, not tusks, just size. He was absolutely huge. And one day, these little guys will be that size. And then these skills will be essential. For now, though, as I said, it's just a nice way to occupy themselves. Pushing and shoving. Trying to get the last word in, or the equivalent of the last word. There you go, well done, you won. Oh, no. The game isn't over yet. Still pushing against each other. For those of you who are birding fanatics, while we reposition and get a little bit closer, for those of you who are familiar with our migratory birds and the different bird species, just while we were sitting listening, or sitting watching those elephants, I'm not sure if you could hear it, but I can hear a lesser striped swallow. They've got a sort of a choop, choop, choop call. I can't do it. There's no way I can imitate it. But apparently, that's given them the nickname the R2D2 bird. And the lesser striped swallows are back, and so are the red-chested swallows. Aha! Yay! Our elephants have come right out into the open. Hi, guys. And as always, a warm welcome to X-Ranger while we get our reposition to get a view of our elephants. X-Ranger, yes, absolutely they will draw blood when they fight. They often do. So these two are starting to tussle. It's getting a bit more serious now because they're in the open. Well, they were in the open. Now they've hidden behind that tree. They do draw blood. We've actually seen them draw blood a couple of times. It's rare, but it does happen. And now? How's that going? There's the famous story of one of the great tuskers in the Kruger National Park. And of course, these little guys are still a little way off from being a great and mighty tusker with enormous tusks being fully grown. They've got a few years to wait. But there's, which one was it? I think it was Mafufunyan. Now, there's an elephant museum in the Letaba rest camp of the Kruger National Park where they have the mock-ups of the size of the great tuskers, the Magnificent Seven that became the Magnificent Eight. And I think it was Mafufunyan. When he died, they discovered, and Mafufunyan means angry. Well, Kutila actually means angry. Mafufunyan means a bit crazy, grumpy, crazy. And they discovered afterwards that he had a giant hole in his skull that some people used to say he could actually breathe through from where he'd been pierced by another elephant's tusk. Leaves flying everywhere. Oh. I love watching their body language. And irritation with each other. Oh. And the interesting about watching baby male elephants play like this is that sometimes they don't know when to stop. So one of them will get tired of the game and try and walk away, and then get constantly poked in the backside by the other until it turns around and retaliates, which is what I think has happened here. Sizing each other up. Again, you need to play to the advantage of the lie of the land. I'm trying to work out whether we should go forward or backwards. Now, looking at these magnificent animals, and let's just see, I'm trying to decide whether, actually I think backwards might work well for us to watch this fight. Come on, Rusty. Justin S., speaking about elephants and injuries and an elephant's skull, they are incredibly dense. So an elephant's skull is very, very thick. These two haven't picked a spot yet. But they have the sort of normal amount of mammalian cushioning around the brain. In other words, they've got the fluid and the cavity between the skull itself and the brain. Their brains are roughly 3 times the size of a human being. So proportionately, we are the mammal with the largest brain compared to body size, but elephants come relatively close. They've got very, very big brains, but it is, as you, I think, guessed, it is hidden beneath some serious bone. An elephant's skull is, I'm just trying to think of how I could describe, probably about 1/2 foot thick. An elephant's skull, if you look at it from front on, is that thick between that frontal part of its forehead and where the brain sits. And then, of course, they've got these giant open cavities where their sinuses are. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. And the young one has joined in once again, wants to play. It's ruined the game. It's not so much fun anymore. It's kind of like kids with younger cousins, where the younger cousin tries to intervene and it sort of ruins everything, because they can't play as roughly as they were before. Hello, guys. A standoff. I really think the one on the left is tiring of the game. Or maybe not. He turned round and initiated that. And the females look on indulgently. I love watching the interaction between the young ones. And what they're doing is sticking elephants very often stick their trunks into other elephants' mouth. It's a really good way. If they don't touch the temporal gland, then they'll go and put their trunk in another elephant's mouth. It's a really good way of getting an idea of how that elephant is feeling through scent. Felicity, it is to an extent a creative license. So Felicity's seen the illustrations of elephants all walking in a line, trunk to tail, so their trunks holding onto their tails. They do it. The little babies do. They will grab onto mom's tail as a form of comfort, but elephants won't walk in a line holding onto each other's tails. They might walk in a line, but not grasping onto each other. They are very tactile creatures, though. Obviously, as we can see, as these two tussle, they are tactile animals. They do like to touch each other. Oh, sometimes a little bit of discipline is needed with rowdy little youngsters, which that female is providing, pushing them away gently. So they are constantly reaching out and touching each other, and babies in particular do it. They also, funnily enough, suck on their trunks, like a human being or a human child will suck on a thumb as a comfort motion. And for the little baby, it doesn't have to be mom's tail that it grabs. The whole herd is invested in its security. An elephant child is an elephant calf is the spoilt one. treated like royalty, protected by all of the females, and comforted by all of them as well. Okay, let's go a bit closer. An elephant baby has constantly got something to do. If mom's busy eating, it'll have a companion to play with, a female, a slightly older female calf to look after it, to babysit it, to mollycoddle it. Elephant babies are essential as part of the bonding experience of the herd. While we reposition to get to our elephants, let's go to James for a quick update while he's on foot.
As opposed to while he's on the wing. Hello everybody. Again, we've been walking for some time without seeing you, and Herbert has been telling us some very amusing stories about days of tracking with young guides. And it's always... Sorry, excuse me, 1 second. Okay, feel better now. Kept stabbing me, that tree. He found, in the meantime, this amazing porcupine quill, which he used to scratch his head, and then I've been using it to scratch my bald head as well. Porcupine quill, and you can see the amount. I mean, every single quill in the body is made of this incredibly calcium-rich substance, and you can see why a porcupine, if it finds a bone or if it finds a snail shell, will eat it, because it's got to have a huge amount of calcium to maintain these quills. Lots of keratin, lots of calcium. Now, the other thing I've been struggling with at the moment is this tooth over here. See it, Ryan? It's been very sore. I don't know why, but that is not a problem out here, of course, because this is a knobthorn tree, and it is said that if you take the knobs of the knobthorn tree like that, and I'm not sure exactly what you have to do with them, but apparently the curative properties of the knob and the knobthorn tree is very good for the tooth. I'm looking over to the left there because Herbert's looking at me with great incredulity. I read this in a book, and so many times you read these things in the books and then you ask a local person, especially someone of Herbert's heritage whose mother is a Sangoma, and they say, well, that's absolute nonsense. We'd never use something like that for toothache. But apparently you can powder these things, put them on your tooth, and you'll be much better. So I'm just going to suck this until we get home later on. Toothache, of course, not a very pleasant thing at all. Herbert, any other cures for toothache that you can think of?
It helps the ladies to enlarge their breasts.
What? That tree?
Yeah, the knobs.
The knobs?
Yeah. You bend them, crush them into powder.
Yes.
Make cuts on top of the breast.
Yes.
And instead you'll be doing the...
Wow. Now, I don't know if you heard that, but quite apart from being a toothache curative, they're apparently quite good for enlarging the breasts. So if you feel that you're not sufficiently endowed, you can go and get some knobs from the knobthorn tree, crush them, make a few light incisions in the appropriate places, and rub the crushed bark into those incisions, and, well, no time at all, you'll look like Pamela Anderson. Thank you for that, Herbert. I didn't realize that. I've broken my stick, you know. I'm very upset that I've just broken my stick, but I was being attacked by that knobthorn tree. Anyway, I shall maintain it anyway. We might have to have it replaced eventually. We're going to walk up through here now. We're on the banks of the Mlwamati, which is this drainage line here. You can see where the bush gets that much thicker. We're going to walk slowly down this game path up towards quarantine clearings now. And with any luck, some Eggs Benedict in not too long from now. Amanda is back from leave, and Eggs Benedict is what we get on Sundays. Herbert, you don't have to hide from the camera. Everybody likes to see you. That is, I'm just still trying to recover from the story he's just told me. All right, I'm just going to investigate this quite unbelievable rootstock here. Can you imagine the strength of the elephant that pushed this thing out of the ground? It probably weighs, I mean, I imagine that this stump, including the leaf, at least the stem, probably weighs close on 1,000 kilograms. It's about a ton. The strength is absolutely astounding, and it's been cut many times, I suspect, for firewood. On the subject of strong elephants, let's head across to Jamie and her elephants.
One day this elephant will be strong enough to push over the biggest of trees, but right now it just wants a little bit of shade. Isn't it gorgeous? Still, at this point, coordination is still a bit of an issue, especially with the trunk. It's like toddlers learning to use their hands, gripping, pushing, pulling, twisting. Yes, one day you'll be big enough to push over that tree, but maybe not just yet. Oh, it's a good scratching post, though. You don't have hands to scratch the itch. I had an amazing sighting once with elephants and a calf of a similar age, where I was watching. Sorry. Is that a good spot to scratch? Is that a very good spot to scratch? Yes. I was watching them in a riverbed, and all of a sudden, it was one of those sort of overcast, nondescript days in the middle of summer. Not drizzling, not doing anything. And all of a sudden, the elephants sprinted away from the middle of the riverbed where they were. And after that, it was followed by a crack of lightning and thunder, second to none. And somehow the elephants had predicted that that was about to happen. Obviously, they picked up on a build-up of electrical energy. Which brings us to Sandy's question, which is, while we watch our elephant have a jolly good scratch on that tambuti tree, Sandy's question about whether or not our elephant or our animals of different species will group or huddle together when there is an enormous storm, in the same way that cows and horses do in the States. Obviously, Sandy, I'm sure you know, we do get absolutely enormous storms out here. In fact, South Africa is famous for the thunderstorms that occur. And the animals don't necessarily huddle together with each other. The herds will stick closer together, but what you'll often find is that most of the prey species, what we nickname the general game species, impala, zebra, buffalo, they'll end up huddled together not because they're looking for each other's comfort, but because of where they go. So that stormy weather for predators is a perfect place, or a perfect hunting time for them. They will have their highest success rate on a stormy night. And the prey species know this. They know that their hearing, their sense of smell is compromised. So what they generally do is they go and they huddle in an open area, like quarantine, for example. So whilst it's not looking for each other's company, they do end up in each other's company. And animals do get struck by lightning. A giraffe gets struck by lightning regularly. I once found it was like a crime scene. 10 dead impala underneath a tree that had been struck by lightning. That does occur. Elephants, I think, though, from what I saw, are quite good at predicting exactly where that lightning is going to strike. I think they've got a very, very, very refined sensory perception. This tree is just the best scratching post, and it gives us an opportunity to really, truly examine this little elephant up close and personally, with her beautiful long eyelashes. So I was wrong earlier in my assessment. This elephant must be a little bit older than 6 months old, because she's eating solid food. Not much. What are you doing? That's a tambuti tree. You can eat it, but you probably don't want to. Have you got sore teeth, maybe? Elephants do medicate toothache themselves, whether through feeding off tambuti trees or silver cluster leaf or spike thorn trees, all of which are very, very high tannin contents. They use it to medicate their toothache. Isn't that clever? Now, at the moment, this little elephant, learning to use that, is that branch providing some tricky maneuvering. Almost. I love watching baby elephants learn to use their trunk. Yes, when in doubt, just pop it in your mouth. It'll be fine. When the trunk isn't quite coordinated to strip off and pick off the leaves that the little baby elephant wants. Amber, an elephant's trunk, speaking of this little one's coordination, is very, very powerful. So it's got between, it depends upon how you count it, but you've got between 50 to 100,000 muscles in an elephant's trunk, and it is completely unique in that the muscles run vertically, horizontally. It's got a concertina-like action to it. It can stretch right out or contract in, and can twist pretty much in any direction. And then be strong enough to pull down enormous branches, and gentle enough at the same time to pick up something as small as a toothpick. Or gently comfort a baby elephant. That trunk is the most amazing aspect of an elephant. Now bear in mind, from our perspective, we're actually looking up at the elephants. We'd be looking at the baby. We're looking at them from a very different perspective, sitting down in the drainage line and looking upwards at them. And I think that might spell the end of our Ellie sighting. We're going to move on and see what else we can find. It's been a lovely time spent in the company of these elephants. In the meantime, I believe that Brent has something much, much smaller for you.
Look at this. It's a tiny little dwarf mongoose. A very aptly named. Oh, he's digging. What have you found? Have you found a scorpion? Or a centipede or millipede or dung beetle larvae to feast on? Now, it is now getting warmer. They only really start feeding from about this time of the day. For the first couple of hours after the sun comes up, all they do is bask in the sunlight and warm up. Oh, did he get it? What are you digging up? Oh, he's eating something. Could be a scorpion. Look guilty for a second there. Oh, off it goes. So that's the smallest member of the family Carnivora. The smallest member of the carnivore family. All the way from a dwarf mongoose to an adult male lion. Oh. Okay, one of the creatures I think I could watch for the longest. They're just so busy. They're always up to something. Go down the... Off you go. And here he comes out. Oh, another one. That's a different one. So they live in little family groups they can have about 15 to 30 individuals in the groups. And there's always someone on watch to make sure death from above is avoided. So any predatory bird... I can't see any more. Can you see any more, Jean-Ray? They're all scuttling about, but I think they're a bit far. But they are incredible. They're the only animal that has a love-off out here in the bush. So most animals, when they fight for dominance over their family group or pride or herd, it's a physical clash. Dwarf mongoose have this really unique adaptation, an evolutionary adaptation to stop physical fighting. What is Jean-Ray pointing at me? Oh, it's a Birchall starling. Pretty bird with a not-so-pretty voice. And we'll chat about the adaptations of the dwarf mongoose's high rock bully birds. They'll bully other birds around food or water. They're also the darkest of the starling species we have. So very sort of almost black blue is the best way I'd describe their colour as. And still, of course, like all starlings, as shiny as ever. What has Jean-Andre seen? Oh, right next to us, Jean-Andre. Jean-Andre's worst light, but it's a grey-headed bush shrike. Look at that beautiful yellow eye. Oh, there we go. Oh, he's so pretty. So he's called a grey-headed bush shrike. He does have an orange breast, a very identifiable grey skull cap. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Oh. Jean-Andre, come faster, Jean-Andre, faster. Where's he gone? I can't see either, to be honest. Can you move back a little bit? What a wonderful surprise. You see him? Got him? Yes, no? No. Oh, yes. Hopefully he pops out into the open. There's an incredibly beautiful bird. Left-hand side of the tree. There we go. And the light's a bit better as well, so you can see those striking colours as he frolics about on the top of the terminalia. Oh, there we go. So, nicknamed the spookvoël in Afrikaans, the ghost bird. They're often very, very vocal on misty mornings. He's jumped out at the bottom here. Where's my hand? Oh, you got him. There we go. Now, this is possibly the most relaxed one we've ever had on camera. Normally they scuttle off at a rate of knots. Got a very mournful call that the early settlers thought sounded like a ghost, and especially calling in the early morning mist. It sounds like quarantine's just been found in Torchwood.
She's gone back towards Second Rock, so she's, so she went from one.
Oh, there we go. Now, I'm going to play the call of that bird for you, but I just want to move away from this beautiful bird. I don't want to confuse it, think it's got competition close by. And, oh, there we go, there it flies. But let's... So, while we've been off air, I've been trying to teach Jean-Andre trees. And it's quite a challenge. But we will get there. We will teach him eventually. I think between James, Jamie, and myself, hopefully something we say will stick. Bush shrike, that's what we want. So I'm just going to play the call for you. Listen to that. Now, can you imagine the bush, really misty? You can't see a foot in front of your face. And then you just have this call coming through the mist. Now, it's described as mournful. I don't think it's that mournful. I quite enjoy it. This is my favorite of their calls. So this is when there's a pair of them. Ooh. Now, actually, we're quite lucky. At Inga's house, we have this quite often. About once a week, I have this outside my window. So wonderful. Hi, Amber. Amber is a relatively new viewer. So, Amber, if I haven't welcomed you before, a big Safari Live welcome to the back of the Wendy on Game Drive today. And Amber says, why do I do this when an animal passes by? And it's so you don't have to look at my fat head and you get a view of Karula or a lion or whatnot. So we try to duck out of the way of the camera to give you the best view of the animal. And Amber, hopefully you prefer looking at the lions rather than us, because we really like showing you the animals. So I think I'm going to let you guys in on the teach genre tree game. I'm almost of the opinion I should get a switch from each tree, and if he can't identify the tree, I hit him with the switch. But that might be considered bad form. And we'll have to think about this. But from Genre and myself, it's been absolutely splendid having you on the back of our vehicle this morning. And yay, Karula and cubs for the afternoon. In the bag, guaranteed, unless the hyenas come. But I think it's warm enough that they're not. So from us, we're going to go have some breakfast and get going with the rest of our day. And we'll see you in a few short hours.
And so we come to the end of another manic sunrise safari, where strange things happen, but at the same time we get to enjoy another lovely morning out in the African bush with every sign of spring on its way. I think I just accidentally turned my indicators on. Didn't know that those worked. They don't work. Never mind. As you can imagine, indicating in the bush or flashing your indicator light is not all that necessary. Although sometimes we still do it out of habit. If you go home to the city for a while and you get used to driving on city roads, you do find yourself tapping the indicator every time you turn. And so, Shadow has evaded me once again. She's hard work, that cat, to try and find. In fact, I dare I say, she's actually, at the moment, she's more difficult to find than Karula. She truly is very, very, I don't know what the word is. She's obviously not doing it deliberately. I think it's because of the territorial shift. I think that's what's making her harder to find. And I think my suspicion would be that she met up with Saleheshe last night, which is why she was pushing and moving and why the guys eventually ended up losing her after they had that sighting. We'll try again. This afternoon we've got exciting prospects. We will try once again to go and find Shadow, figure out exactly where she's gone. I have a sneaking suspicion, unfortunately, because of where we were, that she was right on Elephant Plains' boundary. I have a sneaky suspicion that she might turn up there, which is very far west for her. Not the direction we were expecting her to go in if Saleheshe pushed her. We're expecting her to move more and more onto Djuma and into Karula's territory. Because whilst they might not necessarily get on, as leopards generally don't, with each other, they are still kin. Shadow is still Karula's daughter, so they might meet up and growl at each other, but it will never ever escalate to a physical fight. Whereas Saleheshe has no such kin connection. She's roughly the same age as Shadow. He's definitely going to have a different approach. The wonderful thing, of course, about these live safaris is the fact that we can follow the story from start to finish, and wherever it happens to go, we will be able to find out and keep track of these wonderful animals until the story has completed itself. Let's see if we can't get you one last animal or bird for the end of our sunrise safari. There's got to be something hiding here. Perhaps a pearl-spotted owl. Oh, and just by the way, sorry, an update for you. Whoops, took that corner a little bit loosely. The sticks have made their way all the way, including all 8 little cubs, which which is a long way for little leggies to walk during the day. They've walked all the way from Djuma, where we had them yesterday, to Cheetah Plains. They're now sitting outside the lodge in a dry dam, right outside the Cheetah Plains Lodge. So there's that exciting prospect for this afternoon as well. So you will just have to join us in a few short hours. And you might even see somebody very special who's come back to visit. Speaking of the Styx cubs, just quickly, Donna, you want to know if the mange will go away. We don't know that it's mange. Brent and I had a discussion last night. I think it's mange. He doesn't. He thinks it's a fungal infection. Either of those are possible. I think they're always going to have it to some degree. It seems to affect the youngsters more than it does the older lions. Because, I mean, the physical contact between the lionesses and the cubs is extreme. Obviously, they're mothers and aunts. So there's that constant physical contact, but the Styx don't seem to give any sign of it. And I think it's just affecting the cubs because they're young. Just like any virus or bacteria affects children far more, or usually affects adults far more than it will, children far more than it will adults. I think it will. I think it'll never go away completely, but I do think it's going to improve as they start to get older. I also see that with the older cubs. There's a noticeable difference. It's worse on the younger cubs than it is on the older cubs. I think, Donna, that it will get better. Mange can have very serious effects, but I think in this case they will be absolutely fine. I think that they will, as they start to grow older, their immune systems will be able to battle it off a bit better, and they will be okay. And of course, I mean, we have to steel ourselves for the reality that potentially not all 16 lion cubs are going to survive, 8 in Kahumas, 8 Styx. But at the same time, their mothers are doing a marvelous job of looking after them and raising them. And Kirsty actually came up with the best description of the way that the cubs look, which is like they look like an old loved toy, like a lion cub toy that you've had throughout your life and has been in the washing machine and been cleaned. That's what the Styx cubs look like at the moment, which I thought was a beautiful, brilliant description. And so, as we come to the end of our sunrise safari and start wending our merry way home, hopefully towards some Eggs Benedict, I'm quite excited. Don't forget to join us this afternoon for the sunset safari. I do believe there will be a special guest appearing, and I'm sure many of you are aware that Hayden Turner is back in town and that he will be driving us over the next few days, taking some of the safaris, and we will also be having a special fireside chat this evening. Lots to look forward to. I'm excited, and I'm sure you must be as well. We did find you some animals at the end, and found a herd of impala. And we'll finish off looking at these lovely, graceful antelope. A beautiful way to finish off a morning. And unfortunately, it has reached that point. It's time for us to say farewell for now, and that we will catch up with you in just a few short hours for the sunset safari. As I said, join us. It's going to be an exciting one, I feel. I just have a sneaky suspicion it's going to be a wonderful afternoon drive. And it's time to do our goodbyes and our thank yous. So a big thank you to Viam, as always, for his fantastic camera work and his company. And I would also like to say bye-bye and thank you to Brian, and on behalf, and to all of you, on behalf of James, who would have liked to say goodbye, but he doesn't have any signal, unfortunately. So Mr. Hendry says a big farewell and a big thank you for joining us. And to Rebecca and Kirsty in Final Control, and most importantly, a very big thank you to all of you watching across the globe. I hope you had a marvelous morning on this very special Sunday, and that we will see you in just a few short hours. Thank you for your questions and comments, and have a wonderful day wherever you happen to be in the world. Bye-bye, everybody.